Okay, I'm going over the announcements that Dana came up with yesterday, randomly out of nowhere. The UFC has been dull as fuck. Nothing has been happening. It's been hard trying to come up with the YouTube ideas. And now we have some of the biggest announcements ever and some of the most hyped things that the UFC could possibly do, in my opinion. Out of all the things that they could have done to maximize hype, this is pretty much it. All I could think of. Now all they have to do is make Pereira Aspinall, and we're good. Ilia vacates 145, and he's moving up to 155 permanently. What this means is that there's a couple matchups that make a lot of sense for Topuria going in at 155. One of them would just be giving him the title shot. And that is very, very interesting. And I put that in my most anticipated matchups of the year last video. So we have that to go over. We have this might already be targeted for UFC 317, which is huge. We have this Volk versus Diego Lopez announced for the vacant title, which I have a lot of mixed feelings about going into that one. We also have Chandler versus Pimblett that we'll talk about. We have UFC 314 in general. And then there was a ton of other announcements that Dana decided to do yesterday. And also some announcements today that I'm going to do in a separate video. I'm just going to be going over 314 and Ilia Topuria's vacancy going into this. So, yeah, Topuria vacated. He's moving up to 55. And this allegedly, per Ariel Helwani, is being targeted for UFC 317. So they could just go roll right into a title shot for Ilia Topuria, which I'm cool with, to be honest. Fuck it. I don't care. This is the biggest matchup I think they can make for Ilia and Islam. I say just make it. But at the same time, a lot of people are gonna have problems with this. There's there's number one contenders at lightweight that might have a problem with this too. For me, there's a couple matchups that make sense for Ilia if they're not going to do this right away, which I hope they do. But if they don't, they have Oliveira, Arman, Poirier. Those are the three that I think that are the alternatives instead of Islam. And we'll go over these three in terms of hype level. Him versus Oliveira is obviously the most. That might be. I think that's the most exciting out of the four, to be honest. Besides Islam, of course. So the most exciting out of the three contenders. I would love to see that matchup, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. I feel like they would either put him straight to Islam, which I think is what they're going to do at this point. I honestly like an Arman matchup for Topuria because Dana came out and said that he wants a number one contender fight, a fully fledged number one contendership, and the rematch that makes sense is Arman, not Oliveira, not Poirier, and Topuria is a fresh matchup. So I feel like they would do those two, Arman versus Topuria, for a number one contenders fight, and have the winner fight Islam, and then maybe keep Poirier on ice and have him fight the loser. Or they could just give Topuria to Poirier for his final fight and then give him a title shot after that anyway. But if they want a solidified number one contender, I feel like you do Topuria versus Arman, and then make Oliveira Islam in the meantime. Nah, that doesn't really make sense. I feel like all they can do is really do Topuria Islam, and then maybe Oliveira Sarukian too, something like that. It makes it a little bit complicated in the lightweight rankings, but overall, I think this is a net positive, especially for featherweight. I think this fixes featherweight completely. We have Volk versus Diego Lopez going into a title fight, who the winner will fight Evloev. This makes perfect sense now. Everything's kind of together, and it gives room for Merab to kind of come up maybe if he wants. It just gives, even though I think Merab has a couple more contenders he needs to get through. Yeah, he kind of doesn't. I mean, if Figgy beats Sandhagen, which we'll get to next video, that would make sense. But this one, let's go over this. Thinking too much into the future. Volkanovski versus Lopez. This matchup is huge. It's for a vacant title. Volkanovski gets his title shot anyway, and Diego gets his. It's perfect. Diego doesn't have to fight fucking Yair Rodriguez, who also has a fight on this card, and Volk gets his title shot. It's perfect. Topuria kind of made everything just log jam the division a bit, and it's perfect. And Topuria 155 is a lot more exciting anyway, so this is great. Volkanovski versus Lopez. Going into this matchup, I am leaning towards Lopez because of how old Volkanovski is getting, and his past performances, his past two where he got shinned in both of them. Diego Lopez is a very quick starter. I'm scared for Volkanovski's chin. But Diego Lopez has shown weakness, especially as the rounds progress, and Volkanovski is the guy to exploit that. So if this goes the distance, I'm going Volk. If this ends in the first round, it's going to end because of Lopez, not Volk. So this is very sketchy to me. I really don't know who to pick in both like realms. I don't know who I want to win, and I don't know who I think is going to win just yet. But if I had to lean anyone, I would lean Lopez explosive start, flash KO at this point in Volk's career. Sadly. But it's still sick. Next. Not that. What? This. Chandler versus Pimblett. So this is announced. This is insane. It's what I thought they were going to do, which is great. Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler is the matchup that I wanted them to make for Chandler. And so I'm very, very happy about this. I think Paddy Pimblett has he has a good shot at beating Michael, but I think Michael Chandler is actually kind of a bad matchup for Pimblett. That might be a hotter take than some people are what some people are thinking, but I do think Chandler is going to give a lot of issues to Paddy, a lot more than people are kind of letting on. He is a brawler, and to be honest, Pimblett at this point, I don't think he's an Oliveira. I don't think he is specifically the striking of an Oliveira that's going to shut down Chandler's forward momentum. I don't know if Pimblett's a gamer like these guys that are beating Michael Chandler. I know Michael Chandler's lost every single one of his fights, but every single one of his fights has been against a brawler or he's beaten him. So you kind of have to have that, I think, to beat him or control him, obviously. And Paddy, I just don't know yet. It's hard to say what Paddy will be able to do in this matchup better than Michael besides just straight jiu-jitsu. I feel... But with that being said, the dumbness IQ challenge of Chandler will definitely be in the favor of Pimblett when it comes to the jiu-jitsu and when it goes on the ground. If anybody's going to wrap up a rear naked on Chandler, it's going to be Pimblett. If Poirier fucking did it, Pimblett can do it. But with that being said, Oliveira didn't do it. So it's really hard to say who's going to win this matchup, and that's why I loved it. And it's perfect down the rankings-wise to kind of excuse Chandler still fighting this high and also give Pimblett a shot up. So it's perfect. It's just exactly what I wanted him to do. Dana is doing everything I wanted him to do. Yeah, next. UFC 314 in general. It's stacked to the brim. We have the title fight, Alex Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. I already went over it. Sick. Then we have Chandler Pimblett. Sick. Feature fight. We have Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull coming into the UFC, making his debut. Multiple division champ in the PFL. Very interesting. Going into this, I don't think Patricio Pitbull is going to... Featherweight's different. And Yair Rodriguez especially is different. I wouldn't trust Patricio Pitbull to get past, let's just say, the top 4. But Yair Rodriguez, I wouldn't... He's the guy. If Patricio is going to beat anyone in the top 5 at featherweight, it's going to be fucking Yair. But with that being said, I think the UFC skill set and just everything the UFC brings in general is going to be a little bit too much for Patricio, and I'm going to go with Yair Rodriguez to win this fight with his unorthodox, crazy striking style against a newcomer like Patricio. I know he's out of a lot of experience, but I'm still going to go with Yair on this one. Then we have Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. If Prates can beat both of the Neals, that would honestly be super impressive. Because you can beat Neil Magny, but if you beat Jeff Neal too, and if you beat both of them, those are both the big gatekeepers, the Neals. Twin gatekeepers, it means you're the guy. You can really get shot up the rankings beating a Neil Magny and a Jeff Neal back to back and get some big matchups. And I will go with Carlos Prates to win this one. But this one will be his trickiest matchup. Jeff Neal is a gamer when he wants to be. And Carlos Prates, I think, is just going to be a little bit too slick. And he has great striking. And I think he'll be able to utilize it against Jeff Neal, who's been a little bit more timid lately. His performance against Ian Gary doesn't make me super confident that Carlos Prates won't just go in there and blitz him. But with that being said, Ian Gary is kind of a baby and was a huge pussy in that fight. So, I don't know. Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. So this sucks for Reyes, right when he was kind of getting his groove back. I think Nikita Krylov's going to kill him. With that being said, though, Krylov has been out for a while, so we don't really know for sure if Krylov's going to come back the same way he's always, like, the same way he's been before. But we do know that Dominic Reyes is older, and he's had some rough patches, let's just say. Nikita Krylov is still dangerous and hasn't had that kind of patch yet. I think Nikita Krylov's going to bulldoze Dominic Reyes. But it'll be probably interesting if Dominic Reyes can really get going. He beat John Jones, so we'll see. Danny Gay versus Sean Woodson. This is cool for Sean Woodson. I'm going to go with Sean Woodson, to be honest. I don't want him to be in this situation because I don't like him. I just don't like the way he looks. I don't like looking at him. I don't like his fight style is weird. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Sean Woodson. And I will probably go with him in this matchup, to be honest. His body, his weird fucking body, is actually a huge asset in his fighting ability. And I'll probably go with him to beat Danny Gay. Reach advantage, just rangy striking, to be honest. I think Sean Woodson will actually be able to get this one done. But there's different complexities behind that matchup that I'll go into later when I actually make the prediction video. Yan Jianan versus Verna Jandaroba. I really hope Yan Jianan wins that one. I don't want to look at Verna Jandaroba ever again. Jim Miller versus Chase Hooper. I already went over this. I think Chase Hooper's going to kill him. And we have prelims that nobody really cares about. So yeah, UFC 314 is stacked. The announcements yesterday were amazing. And we're going to get into the other ones. This next video I'm going to post like 20 minutes after this one probably. And yeah, that's UFC 314. Amazing. Everything that I wanted from the UFC is done. Tapuri is at lightweight. We're making big moves, and I'm very excited for the future of the UFC. Finally, there's some hype, which is all I care about. So yeah, that's about it. I'll see you soon.